Hello, bonsoir, and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. I'm your host, Nathan Staples, and joining me this evening are Eric David and Philip Bargil. We got a double scoop of Ligue 1 this week, and with that, some teams prospered and prevailed, whilst others wilted and failed. Who has come out for better or for worse? We will find out after the latest headlines. With midweek fixtures only completed on Thursday, Ligue 1 fans had to wait until Saturday afternoon to get matchday 25 off and running, with an early start to the Côte d'Azur derby. Despite a sending off for Nabil Derar for dissent, Monaco threaded home a late winner from Tiume Bakayoko to keep hold on second place and frustrate Nice in a 1-0 victory. What would normally have been the early match also finished short of a full complement of players, as 10-man Angers fell to Lyon 3-0, a result which took Les Gauls to a provisional 5th. Dismissals continued to be the order of the day in the multiplex, however, in Bastia's 2-0 win over Troyes, as Jean-Louis Lecker was sent off for the hosts, before Brian Pereira and Fabien Camus were given their own marching orders. Guingamp earned a crucial point at Gazélec Ajaccio, despite their captain Lionel Matthys seeing red early in a scoreless draw, while Toulouse and Nantes played out their own goalless encounter, the hosts now 6 points from safety. Elsewhere in the multiplex, François Bellogou was sent off as Lorient hosted Montpellier, but the relegation visitors saw their hopes of 3 points crushed by new man Jimmy Cabot's opportunist equaliser, in a 1-1 draw. Reims, meanwhile, took advantage of their relegation rivals' stumbles and notched their second successive win, a 2-0 victory away to Caen, who are ever so slowly beginning to lose touch with the European places. On Sunday, Sofiane Boufal provided drama once again, providing a sumptuous assist to new man Eder to give the host the leads before getting sent off for 2 nasty challenges in the second half. Youngster Ousmane Dembele took full advantage with a late penalty to give Rennes a point in a 1-1 draw. The early evening match proved much more entertaining than a certain grudge match in England, with Saint-Etienne leading Bordeaux 2-0 within 7 minutes, thanks to Vincent Payos and winter signing Ousmane Tanene. Hosts Bordeaux quickly pulled one back through Cedric Yambare, but the centre defender's contributions on the night were generally less than constructive, as he arguably should have been sent off late on. Sheikh Diabate was dismissed, but only after Saint-Etienne had notched an additional 2 goals through Nolan Roux and Alexander Soderlund to make the final score 4-1. In Les Classiques, Paris Saint-Germain looked well on their way to inevitable victory when shocking defending led to a Zlatan Ibrahimovic goal after just 2 minutes, but Marseille settled in and even drew level thanks to a mazy run and finish from Remy Cabert. Angel Di Maria, after snatching at several earlier chances, then provided a perhaps undeserved winner on 71 minutes to keep the champions in cruise control 2-1. The midweek fixtures provided nothing of real note save Reims' win over Angers and Florian Thauvein's reintroduction to the Marseille squad, a stay that lasted less than 10 minutes as he went flying in on Montpellier's Hilton. In Ligue 2, Metz and Nancy played a thrilling 2-2 draw that saw Les Grenats unable to gain any ground on the joint leaders, while Dijon have a chance to pull 3 points clear at the top with a tricky trip to Le Havre at the time of recording. The Coupe de France is back in action tomorrow, although the marquee fixture happens on Wednesday as Inform Lyon travel to Paris Saint-Germain, who could be caught looking ahead to their Champions League bid fixture next midweek. Also, to add news that seems to be breaking at the moment, Maurice Bellet of Saint-Etienne, of Bordeaux, is possibly lost for the season with a knee injury. And that's all for today. But remember, if you're still craving for the latest in French football news, head on over to our website at www.getfootballnewsfrance.com and follow us on Twitter at GFN_France. We start this week with what was another episode of the Les Classiques between Paris Saint-Germain and Marseille that took place on Sunday night, and the champions-elect carried on their outstanding season. A 2-1 win was much trickier than some other results they've had this season, but Philip, what was your assessment of the game?
Well, first of all, the lineups. The lineups were very good. PSG as you would expect, treated this game extremely seriously. Biggest game of the season. Classico, all the eyes on that game. Anyone who likes French football would have been watching that. Just like last season, it was a very entertaining game, probably made entertaining by PSG's, shall we say, resting on their laurels at times. I thought that the first few minutes, PSG was so dominant, and Ibrahimovic scored after 2 minutes, and it was quite reminiscent of one of those games that where Ronaldinho stole the show. Di Maria was playing great. You had Maxwell. Coming up the left flank, his cross was tucked in by Ibrahimovic, but then everything just completely changed. Marseille just starting keeping the ball, just started playing better, and I don't know. PSG, it's been a recurring theme. PSG seem to keep the ball in dangerous areas. There was a time around the 20, what shall I say, between the 15th and the 20-minute mark, you had Thiago Silva, Thiago Motta, Aurier, Matuidi playing the ball in a very restricted area, but inside their own penalty area, which is just needless risk taking. Anyway, the midfield trio of Thiago Motta, Rabiot, and Matuidi just did not work. They weren't very focused on defending. They left a huge gap, and that was a recurring thing for the whole of the first half. They left a huge gap between themselves and the back four, and that enabled Marseille to attack almost freely. I mean, I know Cabela. Twitter went absolutely mad with Cabela's goal, and it is quite a good goal. But still, he shouldn't be able. That he goes past Thiago Motta. You can understand that. Other Marseille players have done that. So big mention to Lassana Diarra, who did that. Must have been 3 nutmegs on Thiago Motta early in the second half. But Cabela went past Thiago Motta, and he basically went up until his shot and challenged. It's a good shot, and even though Trapp probably should have done better, but I'm sorry, but Matuidi should have been attacking him. Thiago Silva, he just did not know what to do. He was the one screaming at his teammates. What are you doing? Why are we so exposed? And I think they got a bit of the head right in the second half because they defended much better. Thiago Silva, by far and away, the man of the match. David Luiz also had a good game. David Luiz got a bit of stick actually. There was an incident. Laurent Blanc wanted to substitute him with Marquinhos. David Luiz did not want to come off the pitch, and in the end, Marquinhos replaced Matuidi. And later in the press conference, the media asked Blanc, and Blanc didn't answer the question. Just didn't want to mention this debate. He just said, "Next question," because he didn't want to talk about it. So he was obviously not very happy about David Luiz not refusing to come off, basically, which you can understand when you're the manager. Yes, David Luiz is a big player, international standard, and he is, for all his faults, he is a good defender. But still, if you're a manager and you tell the player to come off, he should be coming off. But anyway, PSG was solid in the second half, and Di Maria scored on a rare chance they had in the second half, and got the 3 points. But quite a worrying performance, and I think it's the first time PSG was so roughed up, shall we say, in a way that they could not. They really had to dig deep to get those 3 points, and not in a way that this side Marseille was sitting with 10 men behind the ball. Marseille put so much intensity in this game that PSG really needed to react to this high level of intensity. And it's a shame that it only happened for the first time after on the 25th game, because now there's going to be Chelsea, now there's going to be lots of other things that's going to happen, and it's a bit worrying to me.
And I think the part you mentioned there about David Luiz refusing to be substituted is really worrying for someone like Blanc. And Eric, what did you think to the Champions-elect performance last night? Like we say, it was a little bit more tricky than some might have expected.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I don't know whether this was perhaps a little bit motivated by Marseille putting out perhaps a little bit more of an attacking lineup than you would have thought. Bouna Sarr was dropped for Barada on the right. it's looking to give Marseille a little bit more thrust going forward, I would think. And the way that JJ plays, that right flank was pretty open for them, as we saw on several occasions, not least of which was the opener. But yeah, it was interesting to see the positions that, as Philip rightly said, the midfield were getting into. I mean, if you were to hit pause on the match watching it back, I mean, you'd often see Matuidi and Rabiot as the furthest forward players, and Mata too. I mean, even he was getting about quite a bit as well. Mora and Di Maria were dropping a little bit deeper and tucking inside and letting the midfielders run past them. Whether that was the most effective strategy or not, remains to be seen. But certainly the dynamic of this team has radically shifted without Cavani there on the left, and perhaps with Mora being more of a creative player than a goal-scoring threat himself, the midfielders felt, or the wide midfielders at least, Rabiot and Matuidi felt more of a need to get involved going forward. And I think, again, it left a lot of space, and a more clinical team and a more inventive, creative team, I think would have taken more advantage of this. We think about some of the more exciting, creative players that are also goal-scoring threats in Ligue 1, and that Chelsea have, the likes of Willian or Eden Hazard. I think even given Hazard's poor form this season, would be all too happy to be feasting on this. Or the likes of an Isco at Real Madrid, the likes of a Neymar, someone that PSG could come up against in subsequent rounds, even if they were to get past PSG. I know we're not talking about the Champions League, but yeah, it was a strange approach, and I think Marseille, for me, it exceeded expectations. I saw this lineup, and I think perhaps the only player that really didn't cover themselves in glory was JJ, The rest of the players, I think, did really well. Even Barada, who I've given some stick on the show before. I at the outset, I probably would have personally rather seen Sarr or Alessandrini, but I thought did pretty well. Got forward well, was dynamic in his movement. It was an entertaining match, and I thought that given the unevenness of Marseille's play, particularly at home, maybe we wouldn't have expected to see so competitive a match, but I'm glad we did, even if some of that was down to an underwhelming performance in the early stages from PSG.
Well, you've both mentioned that central midfield now that was a little bit suspect at times, I must admit. But who's to blame for that, Philip? Is that Blanc maybe having the wrong mixture of the three players there, or is Thiago Motta getting too far involved in front with two players that do like to get forward? Who's sort of the odd one out there?
Who's to blame is Verratti, because he wasn't playing. It's Thiago Motta plays so much. He plays so much better with Verratti next to him. I mean, the amount of grass that guy covers is amazing. It just goes unnoticed so many times. And I do not think that Marseille would have been so dominant in midfield with Verratti on the pitch instead of Rabiot. Still, a player like Thiago Motta should be able to react to this kind of, shall we say, reaction. And I reckon that on the whole, he got humiliated by Lassana Diarra a couple of times, and he knows he's at fault. I mean, he's more experienced than Matuidi and Rabiot combined. But I do believe that he did his job quite seriously at the end of the day, because the guy is a born winner. It has to be said, and any other player probably would have been extremely annoyed at being owned by Diarra so many times in a short space of time. But in the end, his side got the 3 points. So. He certainly has to get most of the blame, to me, of course. But I do believe that he said, okay, it's a game of two halves, and we're gonna try and get this right in the second half, which they did. In all fairness, because Marseille played the same way, but PSG were much more compact as a unit. Thiago Silva, like I said before, was absolutely extraordinary, and the whole squad defended rather well, I thought, and I think Thiago Motta has to take some credit for that. So to blame, I do. Some media did point out a period of the game in the first 15 minutes of the second half where PSG were under immense pressure. But they were under pressure, but they kept control, and Trapp didn't really have a save basically to make. Actually, the only times that Marseille were looking like scoring in the second half was when Thiago Silva slipped, let Nkudu in, and Nkudu probably should have scored from there. But the same can be said. The same can be said of Di Maria, who missed a complete sitter. I think it was after 10 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
And Ibra also missed a sitter midway through the second half. It could have been many more goals, and it's just amazing how fast these things go. Because if Di Maria scores a second goal, Marseille's head just drop. I'm convinced they don't have the first half that they end up having. So, yeah, to answer the question, it will be Thiago Motta, and many experts have said that without Verratti, PSG will have a lot of trouble against Chelsea.
Does that mean Blanc has learnt a valuable lesson in this game, Eric, for big games, that maybe the likes of playing a Rabiot and Matuidi, who are a little bit similar together, might be a bit too much of a risk against teams that can attack much more proficiently against them?
I think there's something to be said for that, but at the same time, if you're Laurent Blanc, what sort of message does that send to the league, to potential opponents in the Champions League, if you're going to be overly defensive and play Benjamin Stambouli in this game? I mean, he's the other option here. Let's face it. Short of playing Marquinhos in a more defensive midfield role rather than in center back. Tweedy and Rabiot are more attackers, but at the same time, yeah, you're just not sending the right message in doing that. And I think that's what he's playing with. And this is the thing, PSG need to lay down a marker that they're able to be a coherent, cogent, attacking team in all phases of their game. Obviously the forward line has no problem doing that. The fullbacks likewise. But in midfield, Verratti's a good player at playing balls over the top. Matuidi can score the odd goal, but really the midfield for PSG, that ideal starting three with all fitness, Matuidi, Mata, and Verratti, isn't much in terms of facilitating the offense going forward. So I think perhaps he felt the need to push the envelope here and give Rabiot a chance. Could it have backfired against a more clinical team? Yes, but again, you're not going to see that in Ligue 1. I think that there's perhaps to some degree a lack of respect on the part of Blanc for Marseille. So I think that ends up being what we should come away with here, is that it's a message to be careful, that hopefully Verratti regains fitness sooner rather than later, and that for a team that wants to play on the counter with these pacey wings, the likes of Nkudu and Barada, this could have been a bit more dangerous than it actually was.
You make a good point about Blanc probably not giving enough respect to Marseille, because I do believe that the players saw that this was going to be a walk in the park. I mean, I certainly thought that when I first started watching the game, because, as I said before, Di Maria had a great chance. It's not in, but it's so close. And probably in their head they're thinking, okay, well, if this was very close to 2-0, and we were basically walking it. And then then that changed. Then the players were under pressure, and it really did feel like they treated this game like any other game in the league. And it's only when Marseille really put them under pressure. Judge had a shot. Thiago Silva actually had a handball in the penalty area. Probably could have been a penalty, but Barada blazed it over, and Cabello equalised, and so on. And they probably thought, oh wow, yeah, maybe we need to take this more seriously, which they did in the second half. So maybe it's a more than welcome wake-up call. But I sincerely hope that they wouldn't need that kind of wake-up call against a team in the Champions League, because it might not be so generous in front of goal. That's some way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, too, if we really think about it, I mean, the service to Batshuayi was poor. I mean, it seems like every time he turned around, he was throwing his hands in the air, looking upset with his teammates. Maybe there's a little bit of petulance there too, but when he did have chances, he kind of snatched at them. And we know that, on his day, Batshuayi is a better player than that. I mean, looking at the statistics now, he has one shot, which was on target. If he had better service, this really could have been a different game.
Well, let's talk about Marseille, because there was obviously two teams in Le Classique, but Philip, they put on, despite the result in the end, they put on a really solid performance that they should be able to build on, shouldn't they?
I'm not so sure, though, because I think they were overly sight of that particular game. But if you ask anyone, can they play like that every week? The answer would be no, because it was PSG, it was Le Classico, it was at home at Le Vélodrome, absolutely packed. There was a banner just before the game, "Ne nous faites pas honte," which means that make us proud, or rather, don't make us ashamed. Lots and lots of pressure, and the players knew if they didn't, give it their all, they were in for an extremely rough time. And I think it was Matuidi who said in the press conference that they were playing their season really, because nobody expects them to finish in the European places. Nobody finishing to fight for relegation either. So this was basically their last interesting game of the season. The Olympic has already been played. It's a derby. No, that's right. I was going to say a derby of Lyon. That doesn't concern Marseille at all, actually. And now this derby has been played. And right now, I mean, Marseille are going to try and build from that. They're probably going to try and win at home before the end of the season. I do believe that they can play better than they've played at some point, but I don't think this performance will basically make some players open their eyes about how they could do things better. To me, it will keep being quite inconsistent until May.
It's an interesting point that for one thing, they've still not won at home, Eric, but I just wanted to mention one player who has improved certainly over the last couple of weeks, and they managed to get Remy Cabella in probably an unheralded deal during that January transfer window on a permanent basis, to the point that some Newcastle fans might have not realised he's actually left permanently, but that's a really good transfer in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this team is really looking better. Alessandrini, once he gets back to full strength, I'd prefer to see him on the right there instead of Barada or Sarr. And then, with Nkudu on the other wing, I think you've got a really, really dynamic midfield three there. I think that this team, has a lot to offer. And, I had sort of not been very bullish on their chances against Athletic Bilbao in the Europa League prior to that. But I think the way that this team is sort of coming together, even given their frustration at this result, there seems to be much more of a solidity about them and much more of an opportunism going forward that I think can make them a really dangerous team. I mean, I don't see them winning the Europa League, but if they can get past Bilbao, short of a Dortmund or perhaps a Napoli, one of those very top tier teams, I'd really give Marseille playing on this form, a shot against most opponents.
Manchester United? No. I would quietly throw that one in, but
it would be fun to see Marseille knock out Manchester United, actually.
It wouldn't be for me, but it would be for the Marseille fans listening. Yeah. Just
actually, some statistic. Sorry, Nathan. Some statistic that hasn't been noticed. This was Marseille's first league defeat in 11 games, but mind you, 7 of those were draws. So it just goes to show how inconsistent they are. But they don't lose that often, which isn't being said that often. I feel
it's a fair point. I think I just wanted to very quickly get both of your reactions. It's been announced in the last. We knew that Kurt Zouma had an injury to his ACL, but it has been announced that it looks like it's going to be at least 6 months out with that injury. So he's unlikely to make that Euro 2016 squad. Philip, just very quickly, what are your reactions to that?
I think it's a shame because he could have played a massive part in this competition. Obviously, the events of the last meetup of the French squad made the performances go to to a second degree, shall we say. So I'm not quite sure what our central back pairing is at the moment, but Kurt Zuma definitely would have been in the 23-2 to play in Euro 2016. So it's a shame really, because there won't be a lot of games to win this tournament, and I'm sure he would have had a game given the easy group we're in. So it's a big shame. But there's always the next tournament. He's still young.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Eric, he was playing a lot more consistently with Chelsea under Gus Hiddink, and looked like he might even push for maybe a starting spot in that front squad if he was fit.
I mean, I still think Koscielny and Varane have to be the first choice pairing. But yeah, it's a shame. I mean, he's a young player. Even if he doesn't feature, isn't a major part of the team going forward, just to have that experience at the age of 21, I think he is, I think would really be immense, because Koscielny's 30 this year. How many? Maybe he's got the next World Cup in him, but I think with Varane and Zuma, you're potentially looking at your center back pairing for the next 10 years. And to not have that opportunity for those two to feature together is frustrating. I mean, Zuma's a player who has had his issues, going back to that incident with Saint-Etienne a couple seasons ago. But I think that, as you rightly say, I haven't watched much Chelsea under Hiddink, but it does seem to be, from what I've been reading, to really be developing more under the Dutchman, and it's a shame. I mean, it's the same issue with Nabil Fekir. To see these young players who, along with Paul Pogba, Varane, really have a great chance to be part of an incredibly promising France team for the future, not to be, at their best, or to have the opportunity to participate in this tournament on home soil is really a setback for this national team that, finally seems to be finding its identity after the issues of the 2010 World Cup. Nathan?
Hello? Nathan?
Well, it looks like Nathan's gone. Hopefully
Okay.
he can join. Hopefully he can join us again.
Well, maybe talking point 2 then.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
We're done about the Classico. I think we've covered everything.
Right. No, I would agree on that. Saint-Etienne. Did you have a chance to watch their match yesterday against Bordeaux, Philip, or at least see the highlights?
Yeah, I did, and great week for them. So first of all, the win at Rennes, 1-0, and now this 4-1 drubbing at Bordeaux. I remember you debating Bordeaux. The Berbers certainly burst about them. I wanted to get your thoughts about something. Bernardoni. So he's basically Troyes' goalkeeper, and he was loaned to Bordeaux. I think it's a loan until the end of the season.
That's a permanent move for €6 million.
Sorry?
It's a permanent move for €6 million.
Oh, it's a permanent move, and I don't really understand why. Hasn't been very good. He hasn't been very good since he got there. Lots of goals conceded. I didn't find his performance particularly inspiring. But focusing on Saint-Etienne, great game by this new guy, Tanan, who used to play for Espanyol Barcelona. Does great deliveries, and already one goal in 2 games. Good understanding with Söderlund. It was actually quite good. Saint-Etienne looked much better going forward with these two, especially Tanan with Söderlund, and they certainly had a great time in so in the southwest. It's been a great week for them because now they're third, equal points with Nice. Goal difference is once again positive, so only 7 points. Only 7 goals, sorry, behind Nice. So yeah, that's pretty good.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm back on. There we are.
Yes,
Sorry,
welcome back.
I think
Welcome back.
my microphone might have unplugged slightly, but I will carry on. But Eric, you watched Saint-Etienne, as many people might have seen you tweet myself during the game about Bordeaux struggles, but you were really impressed by Alexander Soderlund in that affair. He's really impressed you with the first couple of weeks, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, obviously it was a hammer blow to Saint-Etienne's hopes when Robert Barrett just lost for what's essentially the season. And I think Soderlund has really provided that outlet that Saint-Etienne had sought to get with Barrett. He's a good, powerful presence, good in the air, but also very mobile. And I think that the way Saint-Etienne play, he's really the ideal target man. With, on form, the likes of Tanan, Hamuma, Amone Pake, Babek, the wing-driven play that Saint-Etienne often employ really needs a center focal point who's mobile, who's agile, and Soderlund looks to be fitting this to a T. And I think he's one of several moves that they've made in the window that really seems to be smart. I mean, Franck Tabanou as well. This player Selnias, who's also from Rosenborg, which is where Soderlund had come from, has been capped a couple times for Norway as well. I mean, these are quality players. Saint-Etienne, I think, now that we're seeing the best out of Tanan, I think really had a fine window to bring in 3 players, and it remains to be seen how much of a role Selnias will play. But those 3, Soderlund and Tabanou and Tanan, I think have really accelerated this team's progression. And I had said earlier, a few weeks ago, we talked about potential placement for the European places. And again, Monaco's win at the weekend, a gutty win with 10 men in a derby rivalry, I think just shows how set they are on that second place. But that being said, I had tipped Nice as being a solid favorite for third. If Saint-Etienne can keep this up, and these are 2, hard-fought wins over the last 4 days, there's no reason that Les Verts can't be right there for that third Champions League spot. I mean, after all, they were level on points with Marseille last season. I think 3 points adrift of third in the final placement, and with the form that they're in, the defensive solidity they still have, the likes of Perrin and Pogba and Bielsa, there's every chance that this team can finally reach the Champions League after so many years of finishing 4th and 5th and having it come down to the last match day.
Well, yeah, that's the story almost of Les Verts' seasons in Ligue 1 under Christophe Galtier. But I watched their game against Rennes in midweek, and I was really impressed by how well they played defensively. I mean, we know that Rennes have a strong side with strong wingers like Ntep, Dembele, who's really impressed and continues to impress weekly. But they never had a sniff in that game. It was 1-0, but it could have been 2 or 3 if excuse me, if they had their shooting boots on that week, that it might have been more, but Mustafa Bielsa had sealed that one. But it was a real show of how good they've sort of been in the last couple of weeks. And Philip, they're one of the more consistent teams really in Liga in previous seasons. Do you think they've got enough to get that Champions League spot?
Yeah, going back on this, even this second place, next Sunday is a massive day in that way for second place, because Saint-Etienne, who are 6 points behind Monaco, which you could say is quite a lot, given that Monaco don't really lose very often. So they lost just once recently at Angers, and their last defeat was at Bordeaux. That was early November. But Saint-Etienne are hosting Monaco on Sunday. Now, they only have a +2 goal difference. Monaco have a +8. But if Saint-Etienne wins, everything is back on. Nice will be hosting Marseille, It's not a banker home win, but you could back as a host to win this South Coast derby, another one after the one we had on Saturday. And Lyon are playing Caen. Caen are not having a particularly great time these days. Lost two in a row, not scoring and conceding 3 goals in those 2 games. So Saint-Etienne may put this race for second back on for the whole league, if you will, and it's going to be extremely tough to break this Monaco side. But I think if Tannen and Sutherland are in a good mood, which they really are at this moment, they even have a plan B, Nolan Wu, who scored a pretty good goal at Bordeaux as well. They're very much capable of that. I really do believe that it would be great for Ligue 1 if they could win that game. That would make the race for second and third completely open. It would be really, really good.
And it is interesting to see how tight it really is around that sort of area. It changes week upon week. Eric, just very quickly on Bordeaux. We might have been excused by getting slightly carried away last week, especially myself, but they've really hit a slip the last couple of weeks with defensively, haven't they?
Yeah, and it's strange to me because prior to that cup game, having seen Yambere and Gilbert as a central pairing, I thought they looked good. I mean, Yambere is a bit bigger, but that allows Gilbert to roam a little bit more, while Gilbert is a more stationary defender, and I thought they looked good, but between the loss of Carasso and the mistakes that those two are making, and the way that the team were playing emotionally yesterday, it's really disappointing to see this team lose it. I honestly at this point I don't feel that Bordeaux are really become relegation candidates somehow, but unless things shape up over the next 3 months, I would not be confident in keeping my job where I will Samuel. It's to concede goals in the manner they have been to the teams that they have. I mean, now this is 4 against Saint-Etienne, 3 against Lyon, 5 against Lille, 2 against Nantes. And based on the way the form of those teams, that quartet of teams over the last few months, over the last month or so, say, none of them have exactly had their scoring boots on. All of a sudden, okay, they play Bordeaux and things change. It's a real problem because Bordeaux do have some fantastic players going forward, the likes of Unas. The youngster Malcolm impressed me yesterday as well, but there's not enough going forward for them to overcome consistently giving up 2, 3, 4 goals, especially against teams who are so blunt in attack. So it's a frustrating situation, and I start to wonder whether Bordeaux will miss the likes of Khazri and Saive more than it initially looked.
Yeah, plus you've got defensive problems if you concede 4 against Lille. No offense.
Absolutely, at the moment. Well, like I say, excuse me. It is an odd moment. I mean, a few of those goals were set pieces, which is the most frustrating. I mean, I don't know what they're doing on the first set piece for the Saint-Etienne goal. They're trying to jump all over the place, but midfield issues as well. A lot of the goals are coming from lost possession in the middle of the park, and then the defence essentially not being in position and being broken on, which isn't really excusable at this level of football. But hey ho, hopefully they might improve. But Willy Sagnol, like you say, might be looking over his shoulder in the next couple of weeks. Might have more patience than some of the managers in England at the moment, at least anyway. But we'll move on to a team that did hand Bordeaux a battering and in Lyon in midweek. They also won 3-0 against Angers as well at the weekend. They seem to have regained their confidence again. Eric, can they make that late surge for a Champions League spot?
I think that the results, if you're taking them by numbers, are certainly encouraging, but watching them play, I still have my doubts about them. The opportunities are there for Lyon. It's just a matter of finishing and being more clinical. Even in the match from Saturday early on, they could have had more opportunities to go up. Instead, it takes a wonder strike from Jallet. watch that goal if you get a chance.
Absolutely, I concur.
For someone who doesn't score a lot,
It's pretty good.
really impressive.
It was left-footed as well, wasn't it? I think, which is even more
Yes, it
impressive with
was.
a right back. I've not seen him use his left foot, so he
Yeah.
should use it more often. Carry on.
But yeah, Genesio. I think I like the way that central midfield sets up with Tolisso on the left and Grenier on the right. I feel like the creativity that Grenier gives going forward is good, and that sort of allows them to play what's effectively a 4-2-3-1 with Tolisso and Gonalon behind Grenier centrally when Lyon are in defense, but shift back to the more natural 4-3-3 when Lyon are in possession, allowing both Grenier and Tolisso to get forward. And I think that makes a lot of sense tactically, but I still think that they need to figure out these wide positions. Kalulu was supposed to start over Valbuena, but got hurt in warm-ups at the weekend. And he's looked a spark when he's come on. He's still struggling with fitness issues after having missed a couple months out. But Gezal hot and cold. Cornet the same thing. Whether he's deployed on the left or the right. But what really frustrates me about the use of these wide players in the 4-3-3 is how much they're being juggled around. So Valbuena on the left, Valbuena on the right, Cornet on the left, Cornet on the right. Without that lack of consistency, there's even though they're being given a free role, they can cut inside. There doesn't seem to be, just because of the lack of time they've had on the pitch with each other. It's hard for these players to develop any sort of consistency and coherency if they're constantly switching flanks, being used as an inverted winger, a natural winger, being asked to go wide, being asked to play centrally. That it's going to take time to build that up. I think we are seeing flashes of this. I think that Genesio has the right approach in giving more of a chance to the likes of Gezal, Cornet, and Kalulu. But it's still going to take time. And I really want to see from Lyon a solid result against a team that is giving them a tough time. I recognize that the losses over the past few weeks to the likes of Saint-Etienne, the draw with Marseille, that they were a little bit undone by some fine goalkeeping, and that we see that there are chances being created. But until they can really put away a team that has a strong defensive record, and again that's Angers, but if you're playing 70-plus minutes the match with 10 men, let's throw it out the window. This weekend against Caen's a perfect opportunity. Caen have been a lot more solid this year defensively, and I think are really going to provide a stern test. If Lyon can turn in another solid result against this team, again, another team with whom they're battling for European places, I think that we can maybe start to include Lyon in the discussion for that third Champions League spot. I know they're only 3 points away right now, but there's still a lot to be done for this team going forward. But that being said, consistent back four of Jallet, Mtiti, Young Mbiwa, and Morel is looking really solid. That midfield three, I think, now straightened out. If Genesio can get those wide players straightened out and get a consistency going there, then I think Lyon really could have something special. But it's still not quite there for me, and let's let them reel off another 6 or 9 points in their next 3 or 4 games, and then I'll feel a little bit more confident.
Philip, what do you think? I mean, they're only 3 points off, and they do have a very talented squad. Surely they can make a run for that third place with such indifferent form from the rivals for that position.
Well, I'm obviously not going to go into as much detail as Eric. I didn't watch all the games in entirety against Bordeaux and Angers, but it is extremely encouraging. Two 3-0 wins. One at Angers. It was only their second home defeat of the season. You mentioned Jallet's goal. It came from quite a big defensive error. We probably beside the point where we do need to mention that Angers and Caen are running out of breath at this moment in time. So it's a moment that we've all been waiting for. But going back on Lyon, it is quite encouraging. Lacazette is scoring again. Gezal, I think it's really good that he got his goal, so the second one against Angers. I've been quite critical of him doing the right choice with the ball when he's in a great position, and his finish was pretty good. It was not as good as Jalais, but it was still pretty good. It's roughly the same goal if you look at it again, well, I think here they've turned the corner. Again, they did play 2 games at Saint-Etienne and at Marseille, where they probably deserved to win both, but for fine goalkeeping performances. So maybe this is just them coming up against maybe less talented goalkeeper, and them keep trying. I didn't quite get the loss at Bastia. But aside from that, it was the defeat at Saint-Etienne Marseille games that I both watched, and apart from Bastia, there hasn't been many. It's been quite a good start to 2016 for Lyon. So I don't. I think this is good. It's something. It's something for Genesio to build on, and I think you will go from strength to strength.
Very quickly, Eric, I was impressed by Gazal in the game against Angers. I know you say he's blown hot and cold, and I did think he played poorly against Bastia, but is him getting a chance in the side finally seemingly getting some of the best out of him?
Yeah, I mean, this was a player who was simply abject last season, but I mean, obviously, if Lyon are keeping this player around, they obviously see some sort of talent in him, and they've gotten rid of similar players, like Balouli, Alassane Playa is another former Lyon player who's at Nice now. Lyon aren't hesitant to pull the trigger on letting young players go if they don't feel that they're up to scratch. So the fact the club's hierarchy would keep him around shows a real belief in him. Now that he is getting that chance, being played as more of a winger rather than the central role he was often deployed in last season. It's a little bit more promising, and again, he's young. He hasn't had much time in the first team. His game is continuing to develop, but yeah, there's a lot of promising signs there. Is he going to reach the level of a Lacazette, a Fekir? I doubt it, but is he going to be a serviceable Ligue 1 player? Yeah, I think so. He's shown enough to me this season, particularly under Genesio, to give me a great deal of belief in him.
Which is good to always see a player improving under a new manager. We'll do our heroes and villains section now. I'll go to you first, Philip. Who's your hero and who's your villain this week?
Hero, Thiago Silva. World-class performance last night. Villain, Sofiane Boufal for yet another disciplinary problem. Just needless scratches on Rennes defenders, and he's just doesn't need to do that, and it's really a shame for such a talented player to keep doing that. Yes, he's young, but he really needs to stop doing that. Antonetti was really not pleased with what he did, and well, the sooner he gets that out of his game, the better. A little Ben Arfa, if you will.
I can see exactly what you mean in that. Eric, who have you got?
I'd have to agree with Philip on Boufal. It's maddening. I mean, you deliver an inch perfect cross for Adair to get the opener in a tough match at home against Rennes, who are a team who's done quite a bit better than you, and then you blow it up by doing the same thing twice in 5 minutes. It's simply mental. I don't understand this guy's motivation. For heroes, boy, I have a hard time with that. How about Jimmy Cabo? I mean, I think that he got a great, it was a bit of an opportunistic finish, but it was a great point and a great way to start his Lorient career off. I think Montpellier were desperate to get 3 points there, given their position in the table, and are really fighting hard. But to give his team the opportunity to hold off La Payade, I think was really creditable.
Yeah, and it's good to see a young player who we thought was impressive at Troyes, especially towards the last couple of games, getting a chance at Lorient and getting that first goal that will give him hopefully the confidence to kick on now. So yeah, I agree. Jimmy Cabot will probably be on my list as well. At the bottom of the table, Reims have had a few games they could only have dreamed of a couple of weeks ago to lift them up to 16th. Two solid wins over the likes of surprise comers Angers and Caen, and although they might have been a little bit lucky, to say the least, Philip, have Reims earned their luck? Philip?
Yeah, against sorry, Nathan. Against Caen, it was some case of Caen not having their scoring books on Saturday evening, but you felt that Reims wanted it more, and that win against Angers was probably really something that was needed in order for them to go on sort of a run. And now they've beaten both Angers and Caen, and it's quite good. I mean, I haven't done the stats on that, but I don't think there's lots of sides who've won Angers and Caen this season, given how high up the table both these sides are. But like I said before, it's going back down. Next couple of games, they host Bastia. There's this away game at Paris Saint-Germain. They'll be happy to get out of the way. We did talk about relegation predictions. I think it was a fortnight ago, wasn't it? And I, of course, predicted us to go down, as they usually do. Probably have to already admit that I don't really think so. Those kinds of results, yes, maybe, shall we say, come in swings and roundabouts, but I really don't think so. I think that the January dealings have been good, and that they should have enough if they keep playing like that. I mean, they're already on 29 points. That's already a pretty good amount of points, given that usually in Ligue 1, if you have 40 points, you don't go down. So they're only 3 wins from there. So yeah, great to see them getting 2 wins on the trot. But they obviously got that because I predicted them to go down.
They might start getting. I was going to say they might start getting you to do motivational speeches at Reims at the moment to give them the juice they need for the end of the season. But Eric, it was like I say a little bit lucky. Angers had a goal disallowed in the final couple of minutes in their 2-1 win, and in the Caen game there was plenty of goal mouth scrambles and plenty of moments where Kossi Agassa was required. That's the kind of thing you need at the bottom of the league, don't you? Though, going your way.
Yeah, and what this is down to is a new defense. They brought in El Khattaoui. Now they're playing with more of a flexible 5-3-2, 3-5-2. So what they've got is at the back they have Taco Fred in the center, and El Khattaoui and Mandi to either side of him. They've pushed up Signorino and Traore to play as more of wing backs, which I think is great, especially for the pace and energy that Traore has on the right. Kankava and Deveau sit in front of the midfield. And you got Charbonnier with Depreville and new signing Bafuma in front of him. So you've got a really dynamic, mobile system. Charbonnier is a big unit. He's great at hold-up play. That allows the likes of Bafuma and Depreville to run in and run off him, but also allows Depreville to drift wide and link play that way. So there's a lot more versatility in attack, along with the improved solidity in defense. And I think that, I said the Rams had a great window. I mean, El Khattaoui was a great player last year. TV Bafuma's proven himself in La Liga, and I think that Carrazzo as well even though Platzi had a pretty impressive match at the weekend, there's something to be said for the signing of Carrazzo as well. Pardon me. Rams were unafraid to spend money, and Guégan's fit these new players together into a system that gets not only the best out of them, but gets the best out of the players who've been having relatively fine seasons to this point in time. The likes of Deveau, the likes of Kankava, even Gaetan Charbonnier. He's has somewhat of an up and down career, but I think his role as this sort of bulky hold up player that can facilitate the attack with through balls is really, really impressive. So well done to Guégan for figuring this out. It takes a lot of gumption to go with a 3-5-2 to make such a radical shift. especially at this point in the season under threat of relegation. One or two bad results with this tactical shift, he could have signed his own P45, if you will. But the fact of the matter is, it's come off really well, and credit to the manager, credit to the players, credit to the new arrivals for fitting in so well so quickly.
And I must concur with that. And I think the formation has got, again, the best out of Nicolas Depreville, who's had a terrific season anyway. I mean, but in the last two games, he's scored. He's assisted 3 out of the 4 goals for me. They've credited 2, but I'm giving him 3 because one of the goals is a free kick that he puts in. The player shoots, it hits the goalkeeper, and then it comes back to the player to score. So I'm giving him that because he's got a terrific delivery. And he's really been the key player for Reims this season as they've sort of kept their heads just above water to the point where they've got that reinforcements now. They've changed that tactical decision, and it's really paid off in the last couple of weeks. And although they've got a game against PSG soon, they've got games against the likes of Bastia and at their ground as well, and against Troyes in the next few months. So they've got a lot of games where really winnable now, Philip, and like you say, staying up is a real chance for them now, isn't it?
Yeah, they might want to pick up the points. I'm looking at their fixture running. They might want to pick the points now because so basically they're playing Troyes. That's the 5th game from the last one. Because their last 4 games are Nice away, Montpellier at home, that's going to be a relegation 6-pointer, Marseille away, which is not really a difficult game this season, and Lyon at home, which could be tricky. So, getting those 3 points against Bastia, then they have to travel to Paris, I'll probably lose that one, then home to Bordeaux, which they could win. It's going to come thick and fast. They've got the other home games against Guingamp and Nantes. I think it's maybe a Norwich City case, if you will, that their final games are so tough on paper that it wouldn't hurt for them to get 3 wins before those last 5 games, so that they've got the 40 points and they can see if they really must, they could still beat Montpellier at home. So that's what they need to do. But I'm sure Guingamp has thought of that before me. That his last 2 games are Marseille and Lyon, which are not a bit of a daunting task when you're a club of Reims' size.
Eric, do you think that there's 3 teams worse than Reims in Liga and that they will stay up?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said before, I'm sticking with this. I've got some doubts about Gazellec at this point, but I still think Toulouse, Montpellier, and Troyes look the best bets to go down. And let's not forget, Reims were in the European places throughout most of the season's first 2 months. They only had 1 loss in their first 8 matches. They drew with PSG, actually had the lead until Cavani equalized late on. They drew with Angers at Angers. They're early in the season. This is a team that's had success, but just seemed to have fallen off a cliff, losing confidence through October and November. And now they seem to be getting that back. Depreville's been on fire, as you rightly said, Nathan, and the new arrivals look brilliant signs. And these are quality players that just weren't fitting in with their current clubs. And Reims takes them in, gives them an opportunity, and they're willing to fight for it and to blossom and bloom and to be the players that we've expected from them in the past. So, and their placement's slowly ticking up the table, but yeah, I mean, beat Bastia, and I think, they're probably as good as safe if they beat Bastia.
That's then they've got the automatic 3 points you get for playing Troyes, and then they have home to Guingamp and home to Montpellier. So it's looking good. It's looking good, but you know how fast these things go. It can also go the wrong way. I don't particularly agree with Gazellec being maybe making basically surviving, as I reckon Montpellier will probably do that. But I do believe that the current bottom 4 will stay the current bottom 4. I really can't see any other club dropping so low in the table. Lorient are not losing many games. Guingamp have made a habit of transforming these defeats in draws. They're unbeaten in 6. Bastia are on 4 straight wins at home. That's great. I mean, that's mid-table form. Lille will get better. Actually, I actually reckon they'll finish ahead of Rennes. And then you have Reims. I just don't see any of those sides going down. So it'll be between Gazélec, Montpellier, Toulouse, and Troyes, which really is completely different to what was happening last season. Because last season it was like the whole bottom 12 were concerned with relegation, because there was no standout. The teams were not as consistent as they are this season. Yeah. And to me, I do believe that Montpellier will make the great escape due to having Frédéric Hans, who's an experienced manager, and I do, yeah, I think they've got the quality, but Gazélec will make a real fight of it. I still can't really make what Toulouse will be doing in the next few games. Play good against PSG and then just get sent by Monaco 4-0, just unable to score, even though they kept Ben Yedder. I'm really concerned for Toulouse though.
They needed to win a game like the one against Nantes, where it was a no contest between the two. Essentially, they need to
win the home game. It's just two wins at home. It's just not good enough.
Yeah. Okay, that will be all for us this week. My thanks to Eric and Philip, as always. Thank you for everyone listening at home. We will see you next week. Have a good evening.